Okay. Good morning. Good afternoon, rather. Good afternoon. This is the midday, I was going to say midday manna, but I better change that and say this is the midday broadcast. This is the midday broadcast with the Spiritual Task Force. Let me switch that up a little bit. God bless you, everybody. Come on in, invite somebody, share, get somebody in here with us. We want to be a blessing today. Amen. We want to be a blessing today. Come on in, send somebody in. We got an awesome lineup for you today. We got the powerful, mighty Spiritual Task Force, as well as Councilman Brian Dabney here with us today. Come on in, invite somebody, share, swipe left, right. Amen. So let me get this panel up here so you guys can meet the panel. We have today with us, I'm so excited. We have the powerful Pastor David Ashley from Redeemed Fellowship.
Morning.
We have Pastor Fine from St. John's Ministry.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone.
Amen. We also have with us Pastor Lane, but he's here by voice. Amen. Oh, there he is. Hi, Pastor Lane. Amen. We also have with us Pastor Kimberly Williams from New Disciple.
Good afternoon.
Amen. And our special guest we have with us, Councilman Brian Dabney, First Ward, everybody, First Ward. I'm your host, Apostle V from Deliverance and Victory. God bless you all. It's such a blessing to be here again. I'm so excited. Amen. Things are happening with the Spiritual Task Force. We are definitely coming together on one accord. So many pastors and leaders in this community, in this region, are coming together as one. We have a great vision and plan that we're putting together for the community. Join us at 12 noon every day, Monday through Friday, and then Monday through Saturday for the nightly worship. It was so awesome last week. Our kickoff was awesome. Tonight, we will be having the pastors at large. So I'm going to let Pastor Kim share that information a little later. But make sure you join in. Also, we've been giving stimulus awards away to a family each night. But you got to tune in, you got to share, you got to like, you got to comment, and we will find out who the winner will be amongst the leaders. God bless you all. Thank you for coming. At this time, we're going to introduce Councilman Brian Dabney, and we're going to just ask him to just tell us about his ward a little bit and what his position is and what his vision is for that ward. How you doing, sir?
I am doing well. Thank you all for having me today.
Mm-hmm.
As you introduced me, oh, there you go. All right. As you introduced, I'm the councilman of the First Ward here in Michigan City. And whenever I speak about the First Ward, I like to call it the most diverse ward in regards to the socioeconomics of the ward and the makeup of the ward. I mean, it runs all the way out to the beach, down Lakeshore Drive through the Sheridan Beach area, and then that area over there by Cool Runnings Restaurant, and I have some neighborhood associations within my ward. And that seems to have been a real good way for me to cover. To reach out to the people in the wards where I have meetings, once a month with my neighborhood associations. So, I can get my hands on a lot of people at one time, but continuing on through the ward, and it comes all the way down on the boulevard here on the north side of Michigan Boulevard, all the way down to where I'm at here on Ridgeland Avenue. I happen to live on the corner of the ward here, and, across the street over on Ridgeland, that jumps into the 5th Ward. And then it runs out here through Memorial Park. Once again, it meets up and heads out there by Carwick, where I have the courts on this side of Carwick Road. And then once you move out past Carwick Road, it starts to be the 6th Ward out there. So I have one of the bigger ones in terms of land mass. And the reason being is that it's more spread out along the beach. It's not as densely populated. Where it's house after house after house. There's a lot of land within that and within my ward. So it's really big by land mass, but it's all about even in terms of the number of people that you serve within your ward. Once again, as I like to call it, my most diverse ward, because I meet with them. I have 4 neighborhood groups that are pretty active here. We have the Eastport Neighborhood Improvement Group, which I'm also the president of. I'm trying to get somebody to take that over to be the president, so I could be in the support role. I have my Elston Grove Neighborhood Association. I have my Canada Neighbors. That's the group that's over there by Cool Running, right in that area. And then my Sheridan Beach Homeowners Association. So I meet with these different groups. They gather, put their ideas together, things they would like to see done within the ward. And I kind of take it from there. It's really interesting being a councilman. And one of the takes I want to get out of this whole thing here is how to be involved and what is expected of city government. What are our powers in terms of a councilman? I hear when election time comes, a lot of people run around and they say, well, this person hasn't done anything for the ward, and they're talking big ticket items, big money items. And sometimes as somebody in a ward, there's 6 wards in Michigan City, 3 at-large council people here. So to just go in and garner money to put into your ward sometimes can be rather difficult. You have to work in tune with the city in terms of paving and streets and things like that in order to get these things done. So a lot of my time is just spent responding to email. People may say, hey, well, I have garbage here, there, whatever. I get on the phone with the street department, get them out there to take care of these things. Stop signs and different things like that. People are always asking for something like that sort. So I get in touch with the police, and they have somebody that goes out and check on these different things in terms of traffic flow. And so it comes down to the Board of Works and Safety in terms of stop signs and things like that. So those are some of the bigger requests that you get. But I want to kind of put to rest, some of that. Well, person in ward, whatever, has not brought anything big into the ward. Those are difficult sometimes because it takes money. And, we have limited funds. As you know, as a city, we cannot run big deficits like the federal government. It gives the federal government a huge advantage over states as well as cities because we can't run in the red from year to year. So we can't go out and run these huge deficits and spend money all over the place. So, but there are times when you get a chance to actually stick your hand in the pot to say, I need some money for paving. When paving projects happen, they're put together based on what's called a PASER rating. I don't want to get too technical with it, but PASER ratings, they go around and they rate all of the different sidewalks in the streets within the city. And they give them a rating system. These are the ones that need to be paved right now and so forth. It rates them on down. But a lot of times, I've seen this, from my 4 years on the council, there are times when there's money actually left over after the paving is done. That's when you really get a chance to stick your hands in there and say, hey, I have some issues over here. I'd like to see some of that, that money moved into the first ward. So, where I live, over here on the east side, we've actually seen some real good paving projects happen over here. Ridgeland Avenue, Pleasant Avenue, and we have sidewalks and streets. There's some stuff that's been done over here on Holiday, right along the railroad tracks, in terms of a sidewalk running down so that people aren't walking in the street to get down to the Carroll Avenue South Shore Station here. So there's been some really good things, and you're doing a lot of responding to the people. So it's a good thing to have as many people as possible where you can get your hands on them, like I said, with my neighborhood association meetings as possible. A lot of times, I see my name tagged in posts on Facebook. That can be that could be a blessing and a curse. A lot of times there's misinformation that's put out there about what can be done, what should be done, because they're not in the actual government process and they don't understand how it works. But that's okay. That's okay. You try to move forward. Obviously, in this line of business, you got to have thick skin. So it all comes with the territory. When you're working well for folks, there are folks that pat you on the back and say, "Hey, good job," and then you have others that come out there and and they jump all over us, but that's okay. I mean, this is the line of work that I signed up for. So we can get in there. Like I said, I can go all over the place. You probably want to know about the response to the COVID-19 and what's been happening in the city here. And really, our mayor has kind of been following the governor. You know how the governor has been responding, but once he did his executive order, which I would like to think I had a big hand in because we had nothing on the books, and I started to email about that, some of the things I would have liked to have seen in that executive order. And then the next thing you know, there's an executive order out there for the council to go ahead and extend, which I believe it extends out to the 5th or the 6th, if I'm not mistaken. If the council wants to expand it again or to extend it even more, we're going to have a meeting before it expires to extend that out. I know the governor was talking about something with the 20th. It's really hard to get information sometimes, from our governor because he waits till Friday all the time. Friday at like 2:30 in the afternoon, when you would hope that information would come out, earlier, so we can get a chance to respond. But obviously, I was one of the people that was, in favor of extending that quote unquote stay at home order. Some of the things I really wanted to see in there with my rentals out there, have people that do rentals a lot out on the beach. I wanted to shut some of that down because we had a lot of people coming in from out of town, Illinois plates, Michigan plates, and they're in and out. And we're right next door to Illinois, and the people that come from Chicago, considered a hot spot. But folks, we're trying to prevent a lot of that coming back and forth. I know there's been some controversy in regards to the closing of parks. But what we're trying to do there is just stop these huge gatherings. Somebody told me that it was a racial thing. It was, because a lot of the African Americans hang out at the beach at night, but no, I think of this whole thing as a safety issue. So we were just trying to avoid big gatherings in all of the parks, Gardena over there, as well as the beach and other parks. We're just trying to avoid those big gatherings. I was also in favor of us, going to our stores, and you see, if you've gone into Walmart, you have people that are standing there taking count as you walk in, trying to avoid so many people being on top of each other. So it's just a social distancing thing, what they're trying to do. I do have to say I'm proud of a lot of people here in town that have taken it very seriously. You go out and you see people with masks and things like that. We didn't put in the executive order, it wasn't put in the executive order whether or not to enforce or to force people to wear masks. But that information came out that you would be better off if you maybe wore a mask. And so now I see a lot of people around town that are wearing masks. It's not only to protect themselves, but to protect those around them. So I was, I'm pretty strong in the belief that my job is, safety first. When I have some of my neighborhood association meetings, it seems like all the time questions come up about police security, what's going on in their neighborhood. And of course, they want to get into city finances as well. I'll talk a little bit about some of the city finances because I know there's some questions that would lead me into the city finances. So I like to think that's one of my specialties in terms of being on the city council is being involved in the finances. Right now, I'm the chair of the finance committee. So, I'll get into some questions and some answers about the finances and what can be done coming out of this crisis, because you do have to start looking forward at some point in order to be able to help folks. And I know Pastor Ashley, I'll let him lead me down this road with a question that he had when we were talking earlier. So I know he'll come up with a question and I'll be able to take it on away from there. So
Okay. All right.
here, I'll stop and give you guys a chance to ask me some questions.
Can
Okay,
I
thank
ask
you.
one question?
Yeah.
He was talking about the executive order.
Mhm.
And I know that the mayor had said that as far as the Lighthouse Place and the Simon Group, had not said anything about opening. Well, I just heard on TV last night that the Simon Group is opening stores. Their stores are all around, you know, the country or America, wherever they're at. And so I want to know, is he going to allow them to open the Lighthouse?
I have not gotten an answer on the Lighthouse, but as far as I know, it's closed. And,
Right.
and you know, and no one has told me that he is in the thought process of opening that up. So that's the best I can give you. I can't give you a yes or no on it, but as of right now, it's not open, and I have not heard anything from the mayor stating that he would be willing to allow that to open. So that's where I'll stand right now, and so I'll leave it at that.
Pastor
All
Ashton.
right.
Yes, good afternoon, Councilman.
Good afternoon.
Now, we know that as church leaders and representation for the city, you know, the church, the pastors are considered to be private sector leaders. You know, you are the elected officials, you guys represent the public. And what we have done because of the alarming pull to try to do something for the community, the pastors have come together and to try to expand their resources. And I know that you so eloquently laid out, you know, your duties as being a city council and then to also and what you're responsible for. So we understand that the mayor, he's the executive, which is the enforcement of the civil criminal law, and you all are the legislation branch that makes laws for our city. So, you know, and we want to know at this time, because we know that the monies also, you guys, all monies are enacted through your hands. So we were wanting to know that at this point, through the pandemic, what have the city done for its community as it relates to the economics as a assistant or a resource in this fight against COVID?
Okay, and here's where we stand currently in terms of finances. You know, we make our regular budget, year-to-year budget, so. And then we have that Riverboat Fund, right? Well, the Riverboat Fund yearly has averaged, you know, we're about 10.5 million or so that we would get from the Riverboat. As of right now, and this is all public knowledge, so that's why I can talk about this. This is all public knowledge, but right now we have about $3.8 million left in that Riverboat Fund. And so when it comes time to do something like if we were going to buy masks, or if we were going to pay for the protective gear for folks in the nursing homes or in hospitals and do things like that, that's going to come in the form of an additional appropriation. And additional appropriations go into the Riverboat Fund, okay? But as of right now, you know, with the casino being closed, we're operating, or we're having to operate as if it's going to be closed for the rest of the year. We don't know that. Personally, I hope it is not. But the way I'm looking at it now, we have $3.8 million or so that has to last us to the end of the year. So it's been difficult in terms of being able to come up with programs where we could spend money out in terms of, you know, paying for additional appropriations. I think you may have seen a while back, I had a Facebook post where I talked about where I thought I felt like I've identified a source of money out there that we could use to do a program to assist folks with rent, utilities, and things like that after this whole pandemic starts to break a little bit. Because, you know, we have these orders out there where they're not shutting people off with water. NIPSCO is going to be holding off on things like that. And people that have lost jobs are not able to pay the rent. So I had hoped that we could access some funds, and I'm talking about the Promise Scholarship Fund, which right now has about $3.3 million or something like that in there, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have that number correct off the top of my head there, where we could transfer some of these funds or move some of these funds to be able to give to a place like the North Central Community Action Agency. They specialize in helping people with utilities and rent. And I think it's going to really hit us hard after this is over with, when, you know, NIPSCO goes back to, you know, business as usual. You know, these dollars, I mean, these bills are still piling up. but they're just under the, that they're not going to shut people off. Water bills are still going to have to be paid at some point. That's probably a better way to say it. These bills are still going to have to be paid. And I'm hoping that we get some assistance. We're able to do some assistance from the city in terms of being able to help with that. So that was, like I said, a post that I had probably right at the beginning of this whole thing, where I was talking about that. So one thing now, like I said, we're operating as if the casino is going to be closed for the rest of the year. I've identified money that I believe we can take out of the Promise Scholarship Fund without killing that Promise Scholarship. I think that's important. Education, I think, is important here in the city. But maybe couple $100,000 can be put out there to somewhere like the North Central Community Action Agency to be able to assist with that. Right now, the big thing was just property tax dollars that were being collected. If you own property, you've seen your property tax bill. And being a finance person, when the governor was talking about some extensions that they were giving in terms of taxes and property taxes, he said you would not be penalized if you were to pay July 11th rather than May. Those first property tax bills are due in May. And then we get the money, tax collections that show up in June. And this is that actually runs the day-to-day operations of the city. This is how the city survives, pay the payroll and everything like that. So I think it's going to be key to see how much money we get from those tax collections before, we're able to, like I said, as a finance person, I really want to see the numbers. I don't like to operate on worst case scenario, best case scenario, things like that. I want to see some actual dollars in front of me. And I think that'll really push us forward, or push, some of my thought process forward on being able to supply funds to help. Like I said, with the North Central Community Action Agency, I've been, talking with Ms. Cindy Davis, who runs that program, and hopefully, and I'm pretty optimistic about it. Hopefully, we can get some funds and be able to put out there to the public to help people.
Right. So, Councilman, so at this point, right now, to answer the question, so everyone can know that economically, the city have not done anything.
And as of right now, coming through the city council, we have not been able to put any funds out there like that. Luckily, for us, like I see some of the companies now, they're stepping up and they're helping the people with masks. You walk into the stores, you see the people with masks and things like that. So a lot of that can be taken care of through the private sector. But as of right now, the city has not been putting money out into the community like that. But I'm really hopeful that we get a chance to step in and help, because I think that's where the big wave of problems is going to come in the city, with rent relief, and then, like I said, paying these past due bills in terms of utilities and things like that. So hopefully we can get there and help that. Go ahead.
And being working with the city for a while, and I know that even when it came to the riverboat funds, those funds were the casino come here because we're being a economic deprived community. A lot of people were in poverty at the time, and a lot of the citizens were against this casino coming here because they felt that it was going to draw too much of the resources from those who are already poor to the casino. But nevertheless, what they did was they said, what we'll do is we'll use those monies not to pay bills, but to stimulate the economic of the poor community. So again, like I said, I've always been a proponent against casino monies used to pay the city bills, because initially that was not what that money was for. So, but again, now I do know that the churches, if you can speak to this. Now, I do know that the one of the politicians came on earlier, and they kind of like identified some sources about what the city can do. And he has spoke about, I think he identified 3 sources. He identified the source of HUD, which is the Housing Urban Development Funds. They received $200,000, or they're going to receive $200,000. And then it was identified that you all had a small savings account, but you guys are trying to save it for a rainy day fund. So, but again, I would say the pandemic It ain't raining, it's storming.
Exactly.
And the third source was he identified that the state of Indiana had a $2 billion surplus.
Mhm.
It was they had legislate 500 million to go to the cities of Indiana.
Mhm.
And I guess the first payment was sent out of 300 million. So I'm thinking that you kind of do some rough math in my head. I think we got like 92 counties around Indiana, Indiana. So that means about $3 million per county.
Mhm.
We got what 10 cities in Michigan City. I mean, 10 cities in LaPorte County.
And from what I'm hearing, like I said, I have not seen the exact of what's been put out there, but I know it has something to do with population in terms of how money is going to be sent, obviously, to Marion County, where Indianapolis is at, where we're taking more to LaPorte County, and so forth.
So also my question was, you think that before the monies get into the hands of the city, can we earmark those funds to make sure that there's going to be some resources for the community? And I know that you all wouldn't prepare for this. I think that if you look at the city council now, the arena of the city council look far different from the previous council.
Mhm.
And I do know that the city have come out in leaps and bounds and really had a lot of faith in this council.
Right.
So I'm suggesting, if you think that, if you can speak to this a little bit, you think that you can earmark, or it'd be wise to earmark those funds
Mhm.
before it lands in the hands of the city and they put it into their rainy day account again.
Now,
That's a good question.
yeah, in regards to earmarking, I need to know what kind of dollars do we have. So I understand, you want to earmark and you have priorities. You want to set priorities as to what you want to do. But in regards to actually earmarking funds, because I have no detail. I have not gotten anything in terms of detail of what the city would get. But in terms of earmarking funds, when it comes down to it, if someone gives me an email pops up right now that says, we are going to have so much money, I'll be the first one to fight for what I was talking about, because I think that is going to be one of the most important things that's going to, keep us, from falling behind, keep people from falling behind in terms of rentals and things like that. But, right now I don't have an idea of when we're supposed to get that money, how much is I supposed to be out there. So I have some difficulty earmarking. Like I said, I know what priorities. Obviously, I've expressed my priority in terms of what I would like to see excess funds go to, because I think that's going to be the hammer in terms of what happens, after this whole thing is over, because we're going to have people that are going to need rent relief, need some help with the rent, catch back up with rent, and then utilities and that. So I'm going to the baseline level in terms of where I would want to see that money. So I would. And if you've ever heard me speak, you've never heard me really make a campaign promise.
Right.
I've only made one campaign promise the whole time I've run for any office. And that's that I would be able to explain any vote that I've taken on the city council. That's the only promise I've ever made. But if money were to come down and we get a notification that money is going to come down to the city, one of the earmarks I would be fighting for is some type of relief fund like that, because I really think that is where the city is going to be hit hard. So you have my word on that.
Now, can you speak to I know that they may mention about the HUD, it's $200,000 towards the HUD. Now, I thought that when you got those monies are specifics. They're restricted to only HUD for the housing, urban development. But I do know that because of the COVID-19 pandemic,
right,
it changed the whole narrative of grant. So, did they advise that since, maybe the pandemic have come in, did they unrestrict those HUD funds to use in a different fashion?
I have not been alerted to that. I don't know where that information came from. In terms of, you said 200 grand, something to that effect. I have not been notified of any money that has come in from HUD. Somebody's identified a source from HUD money. So I can't, speak on that with any type of education or give a great response to it because I'm not familiar with money that has been brought over by HUD.
Right.
But once I find out, I'll be able to come out and speak all day on it.
Okay.
But as of right now, I have not heard of that fund. So that's interesting that I don't know if it was another councilman that came out and shared that information, but
That was the mayor. He said that Friday.
okay, it's Monday, so I have not heard of anything
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
But now that you told me that, when I jump off of this talk, I am going to be emailing.
Okay.
Right.
I will be emailing to find out what that's all about.
Well,
Okay.
not that we are in support of it, because housing for urban development, housing of urban development,
Right.
not that we're supporting that, so again, but I know that it was brought up and it made mention of, so we really want to know the specifics.
Right.
So, because I think that when funds comes in, they got to come through the council, right?
If I would imagine that would, 'cause the council would not that, I've never done disbursements. I've been on the council, disbursements to the housing and urban development. So that's like I said, I need information on this to find out exactly what this money can be used for, what it's all about, before, like I said, I can, speak about it with any clarity, intelligence about it. So I'm going to have to find out what that's all about. Maybe you guys can have me back after I get more information.
Oh, definitely.
I'll be
Yeah.
more than willing to talk about it once I get the information.
Okay.
Pastor Kimberly, you have some questions from Facebook and right. I was
Yeah.
just wondering if you can expound. Well, go ahead, Pastor Kimberly. I'll come back with my question.
Okay, I have one question from a listener. They said, my mom's property tax is increased. Is that because of the COVID-19? And they say she is on a fixed income.
Okay. Property taxes were calculated a long time ago. They go out and do what it was called an assessed value of your property. So they cannot come up with an assessed value. When did this all become big news? In March? That's when the casino closed halfway through March. So property taxes had been, assessments of homes and things like that had been happening a long time ago. So it's not in response to this pandemic happening. Property taxes and the assessed value of the homes has been going on for quite a while. So no, it's not in response to this pandemic. And so what happens, and I understand that is a big thing with people on fixed income when the property taxes go up, but the assessed value goes up, it means the value of where you live and the properties are going up. And that's what you want to see. It's kind of a double-edged sword. That's what you want to see, as a city, because you want to see the properties go up, but it can affect people that are on, fixed incomes. And I wish there was some type of thing that could be done federally. I don't think we can control that as a city. That folks like in that situation get some assistance, get some help. You've seen how much money they've been throwing around to help businesses and things like that. So that would be something that I think should be, taken care of on a national level, because I don't know what we could do as a city to take care of that. But that is, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. As your assessed value of your house goes up, means the area that you live, values are going up, and that can be a really good thing. And then, like I said, on the flip side of that, you have somebody that's on a fixed income. I know folks that are on Social Security and things like that. And the federal government has not been raising Social Security over the years with the cost of inflation. So that's a big issue nationwide. And I'm really sad about that, because you would think that would be something that would be focused on to actually give cost of living increases to be able to keep up with that with people on fixed income. So.
Yeah. Okay. Pastor Ashley, did you have another question you want to ask?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you, Apostle. Now, what about? I know before you just spoke about the scholarship fund.
Mhm.
Now, I do know that we're very excited about the new council with the scholarship fund, because I think the previous uh, protocol for the scholarship fund was that own property, or if you own homes, or your parents own property in the city, you wouldn't allow as a student to partake in any of those funds. So now, but now since we have the new council in,
Mhm.
we're hoping that a lot of the students who had did well in school, who lived here most of their lives,
Right.
but their parents did not own homes, could partake in some of those funds, you know. So, and I believe if you can kind of really set the protocol first before we get, can you set the protocol? I know that you have to own property
On home,
at the same time.
homeowner.
Now that $5,000 a year, you get that every single year until you graduate, right?
It could be up to $5,000. Let me explain. When this was originally drafted, and I'll just throw one question out to everybody real quick. What is the biggest reasons why someone does not own a home here in Michigan City? What's the biggest reason that you would say?
Can't get finance.
Can't get finance, can't
Credit,
credit,
maybe.
okay? And most of the time, just flat can't afford, right?
Mhm.
So when this thing was designed, this is how it was set up. Because I used to be a director of financial aid out at Purdue North Central. So it was myself and two other councilmen that are no longer on the council. And, unfortunately, Mr. Whitlow passed away, and Ms. Silvis, Candace Silvis, is no longer in the second ward. So what we were trying to do is the students that are the most needy students in our city here, they usually qualify for Pell Grant. Okay, a full Pell Grant is about $5,600 a year, and also if they apply as a senior before a certain deadline, that opens them up to the Indiana Higher Education Award, which can be another couple thousand, $2,500 for the year. So we're already looking at about $8,000 in grant aid right there. This was set up, and then also there's something that needs to be done here in our middle schools. In the 7th and 8th grade, these students can apply for what's called the 21st Century Scholars. I think that's been left off the table. People are saying that the Promise Scholarship is the end all be all. That's not the case. Promise Scholarship was more of a supplement to these different programs. And like I said, let me go on and go into this thing. So our most needy students would apply for, and they would receive Pell Grant. They would receive this Higher Education Award, or if they were eligible in the 7th and 8th grade for the 21st Century Scholars, which pays all tuition and fees. It may leave a little balance of $30, $40 or something like that, some fees that they may not pay. But if a student has the 21st Century Scholars, that means that tuition and fees are paid. That person would not receive the Promise Scholarship. This only pays up to tuition and fees. So I'll give you an example. And I was just writing examples here earlier. I wish I'd had it up on the screen. Let's say somebody's tuition and fees for the year is $5,000. Okay. They qualify for Pell Grant for $2,000 and no other financial way. So now there's a $3,000 gap that could be paid up to that $5,000. That is where the Promise Scholarship would come in. But most needy students, the ones that have the most financial need, most of the time have what's called a zero expected family contribution. They receive full Pell Grant. They receive full state. So normally, well, if somebody has a zero EFC, it's more than likely going to pay their tuition and fees. So they would not qualify for the Promise Scholarship. The Promise Scholarship is not piled on top of that. It is for any students that would not have the money to cover tuition and fees. But just like anything, it probably leaves a little bit of a donut hole out there for some people who just decide that they want to rent rather than buy. They have the means to do it, but they decide to stay in a home. So that is, that is something that can be talked about, looked at, but the way it was originally set up is the most needy students were still covered through federal programs first, and state programs, and then the Promise Scholarship would come in as a supplement to that. So it's gotten twisted around to say that it is like the end all be all. But I want to push students to go for these federal dollars first and these state dollars after that, and then the Promise Scholarship would come in. When it was first put together, the Promise Scholarship program, what was supposed to happen was that we were going to really press the kids in the 7th and 8th grades, to go for the higher, the 21st Century Scholars. I'm sorry, I missed the 21st Century Scholars program, because those students would go on off to college and they wouldn't be eligible for the Promise because they would already have their tuition and fees paid. But that has not been happening. So we have some of our most needy students that are left out there, and they're renting, and then they don't qualify for the Promise Scholarship, and that's a little sad. But I think if we had someone in charge of that whole program, Promise Scholarship program, that knew the whole financial aid system, I think our results would be a lot better, and we would not have to go out and expend more money of the city's money to run that Promise Scholarship program, because the person that would understand the financial aid system would access those federal dollars and those state dollars first.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are definitely, I hear you what you're saying, but I'm sure you're going to probably be faced with a lot of resistance,
Of course.
regarding messing with that scholarship, because they're under the assumption that, you all was going to include those that didn't own property
Right.
to these scholarship funds.
Correct.
Just, real quickly, I got just one more. Now, regarding the COVID-19, heard testimonies. I know that a doctor, along with some other politics from the county, have contacted us, and we had a Zoom conversation, and he was bringing us to the awareness that people of color, the Latino community, the Blacks were affected at an exponential rate compared to cultures, and he wanted to bring that to our awareness. But at the same time, they didn't have offered any resources, to try to help. Now, through a few testimonies that we have heard of, we heard that where people who have COVID symptoms, they'll call the emergency room because they can't go in. They call the emergency room. The emergency room will instruct them to call the doctor.
Yep.
And they call the doctors, but most of the people who didn't have insurance don't have doctors.
That's a problem.
Then the emergency room will give them a list of doctors. Those doctors they call saying they're not taking new patients.
Right.
And really saying that ain't nothing we can do for you right now. So, I think that in moving forward and opening up the community to stage 2, stage 3,
Right.
I know, will it be wise for the council to, because you can affect to have a person who have COVID-19, but yet not been properly diagnosed because they have no insurance. And most of those people are the people of color.
Yeah.
So you can have people who may have COVID-19 affected, but yet not properly diagnosed, but operating as if she is not affected and potentially affecting other people. So moving forward and opening up the community here in Michigan City, because the government said from Indiana said he's gonna leave it up to the mayors and to our government here, our council member. Now, do you think that we should have something in place so that everybody can be tested? I was just seeing something on the news today. I believe in Michigan, they had free testing, and they had cars 6 miles long.
Right.
For a drive-through testing. So I think that, and moving forward, you think that it'd be wise to have a testing element here free of no charge to the residents and moving forward?
All right. You say free of charge. This testing is going to, at some point, somebody's going to pay for it. Somebody's got to pay for it. And this is why our city council put together that resolution that we did to send to the state to open up that surplus that we're always talking about in terms of getting money into the cities and things like that. And this whole testing is kind of trickled down all the way from the federal level, where the testing is just not anybody who wants a test, they can't go out and get a test. And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that a lot of this is tied to your insurance, which is eventually tied through work. And that's where I think if we're going to really put a halt to this, testing is going to be one of the keys, and that has to be taken care of in order to identify, who has it, and how do you're able to quarantine these people. At some point, there's going to have to be a test developed where we can see if somebody's had it and has developed the antibodies, so eventually can have a vaccine in order to fight this whole thing. So it's really difficult, and I'm flipping all the way back to what I was talking about with the finances of the city. I would love to be able to dip into city funds, riverboat funds, or whatever we may have in order to try to access these tests. But as of right now, as I told you, like I said, to give you the truth, with the casino being closed, there's no more money that's coming into that. We have, like I said, $3.8 million that has to run through the end of the year. And so that's paying for, contractual services. And so we're in a tough spot. But like I said, you talked about money that was released from the state. Like I said, I haven't heard of that yet. I haven't been really looking at my email today either. I've been working. I'm actually on my lunch break right now speaking. So, but I would love to see us be able to acquire testing to help out. The hospital over here at the old hospital, I know they were doing the tests over there, but you had to have a doctor's note, which is tough to get in certain communities of people that are working a lot of part-time jobs. They don't have the insurance. They don't have a doctor. And this leads back to the African-American community being affected at a disproportionate rate, Latino community being infected, at a disproportionate rate. And all of this, this whole thing, it's got to trickle down from our federal to our state and down to the local municipalities and things like that to be able to handle. I wish we were sitting on a $20 million surplus where we could go out and spend $2 million or so, try to attain as many tests as possible. But that's just not the case at this time. So moving forward, I'm looking for information about our tax collections, how we're going to pay the city payroll, keep the city running. That may give us an option in terms of free up some of that money, like I was talking about from the Promise Scholarship program and things like that moving forward. So hopefully, we get good news there. So I've sent email out to my neighborhood associations, just stressing the importance of paying the property taxes in a timely fashion. I've gotten good response, from my folks out here, my Sheridan Beach groups, my Eastport group, Elston Grove, as well as my Canada neighbors in regards to that. They understand, where we are and what we need to do moving forward. So it's a tough one, Pastor Ashley. It really is. Hopefully we can identify or get our chance to help. And do some things like that. So, it's a tough one. It is a tough one.
All right. Apostle, I'm done.
Yeah, I piggyback on what he was saying about the testing. If there are funds to be earmarked, right, could that be one of the earmarkings? Could we set up something that we can have testing for those that don't have insurance and don't have, doctors are already because they're not taking new clients, and then they're doing a lot of virtual visits. And then the other thing is, as a church, we're trying to come together to help the community. We've been doing some nightly stipends on a smaller level, but with the city help, we could, help them with more miscellaneous things that they may need at home, because even household supplies has become commodity right now. I mean, it's big right now. It's hard right now. So what do you think about that?
And like I said, this all goes back to the financial situation. I have to keep going back to that. And if we, have the opportunity to do that, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It's going to be important for us to see actual dollars. I can't come out and, make a promise of being earmarked when I don't even know what we have. When I find out what we have, then I can go all in on, on some of these priorities, but I don't know what we have. So right now, if I made a promise to earmark so much money for a certain program, test, well, like I was talking about with the North Central Community Action Agency to give money to help with rent relief and utilities and things like that, it would be an empty promise because I don't have actual dollars. And I cannot be on this program with you all and put that out there.
Right.
Just to make it sound good, to make myself look, I can't do that.
Understood.
I can't tell you that. And then all of a sudden, 6 months down the line, I'm back on here telling you, probably shouldn't have said that. So I really need to wait until I see actual dollars and somebody gives me some information before I come out here and speak like that. But if we get it, I'm more than willing to jump back on.
Okay, that would be fine. Also, I have one more question, and then Pastor Kimberly has a question from our Facebook family.
Perfect.
My question is, okay, so we talked about this graduation for the students. And I know that right now, I believe it's canceled for the students, but the church leaders had a great idea to come together and do a ceremony for the students. Could the city help us with that? Or we talked about the amphitheater. We're just talking. We haven't made anything permanent or we haven't decided on anything promising yet, but we're just talking about it. But could that be a possibility? Could the city help us with? You said you own that lakeshore area and the beach area. Could we maybe go there and do a graduation ceremony for the students? Is that a possibility?
I would see to do a graduation ceremony as a possibility, but once again, if you're asking for financial help, right? Have we thought of fundraisers? I'd be willing to jump on a fundraiser right now. I know a bunch of people that would do that.
Okay.
But in order, like I said, I can't make an empty promise of saying the city can do that. I'm telling you, I'll be the first to be able to put these requests in when I find out the dollars that are out there. You listen to the public, but I still have to balance what we have, what we can do at this point. But if something were to change where we get significant funds and we find out that the city payroll is going to be covered for the year, things of that sort, then it makes that decision a lot easier moving forward. Like I said, but I just don't want to come out and say, hey, I can promise so much money. I really do think we need to get together and probably come up with some type of fundraiser.
Okay.
That can help. Some things like that. I'm sure past graduates, that I've graduated with, would be willing to donate.
That's great. Okay, well, we need to meet and see what we can do with that because the time is approaching really quickly.
Yeah.
Pastor Kimberly, you have another question for Facebook.
Yes, and this is going to be my last question. And I just wanted to also let you all know, they are going to have a virtual graduation, but they will not have a physical graduation. This is from one of the callers, and this is our last question.
Okay.
Could they set up where those who have insurance is paid through that? And this is back to the testing, I believe. Right. And when you were talking about insurance, could they set up where those who have insurance is paid through that, and those who don't at no cost to them?
Read that question again, please. I'm sorry.
Could they set up where those who have insurance is paid through that, and those who don't at no cost to them? I'm assuming.
Right.
I'm assuming they're asking, and I'm just assuming this.
Is there a way that we
Um,
can provide testing at no cost?
Right.
Kind of
For
what,
those that, for those that
And for those who have insurance, can testing be set up for them? I'm assuming that's what they're asking.
those with insurance, or let's just address that group. Like myself, I have insurance. I'm working. I could easily get a doctor's note. If I'm having cough, I'm having flu, things like that, I can get a doctor to get a note to get myself tested. Those folks are not the top priority. The top priority is trying to find a way to get those people tested that would not have insurance. I don't know how readily people have looked into the Indiana HIP program. I actually use that in between jobs, real low cost and things like that. But it's just an idea. I forgot the actual name of it. I know it's HIP. But anyway, you would be trying to really focus on the folks that don't have insurance. And that would be a tough one. Once again, got to analyze how much somebody's going to pay for the test. Somebody's got to pay for it. And where is that going to come from? If city resources are available, if we receive enough state resources to be able to do some things like that, that's a tough question. That is a tough question because once again, I'm sure myself, along with others on the council that have the same feeling, would love to be able to do that. We would love to be able to do that. But you do have to be realistic and looking at what finances we have access to be able to do that here with the city at this time. So I know it's not the answer that a lot of people want to hear, but it's the answer that I have to give to be truthful. I can't throw a pie in the sky and say, hey, yeah, we can do that, when at this point, I don't know what we have. I don't know, what we can do in order to make that happen.
That's all that I have.
I'm in trouble. Okay, there you go. Okay. I have a little note for anybody that's out there listening, right?
Okay.
Please try to keep yourself safe. We're hoping, just because we may have hospital beds open, we don't want to do something that would fill them up. I don't want to challenge people who don't have the insurance to cover, to fight this. I don't even want to see people that have the insurance to be able to do this, to be out there getting sick from this. I mean, I'm seeing all the time, it's a hoax, and people, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? But all I know is there's 60,000 or so deaths in the country right now.
Right.
66,000.
Yeah, and it is, we have to really, take some responsibility to make ourselves safe as possible, because, we could be protecting ourselves, but when other people are out here not being safe, they can affect others. They can affect others who don't even know what's going on, but then they turn up sick. So I do have to commend some of the people around town. Like I said, they're wearing masks, and I see in the stores where they're doing the social distancing and things like that. So they're really paying attention. So I'm happy to see that. But I want everybody to remain safe as possible. Take care of yourself, take care of your family. Because I don't want to see this thing be tested with people lined up in the hospital. We want to do prevention rather than trying to cure. That's a lot cheaper for you, for me, for anybody that would get involved with this. I really want to stress that, hopefully people are being safe out there and taking care of themselves. So we can get through this. The sooner we get through this, the sooner things get back to normal, and we can take off again. But right now, as a public servant, I feel that safety is number one right now. I feel safety is number one right now.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman. Do we have any other questions for any of our panel guests? Anyone else?
No.
No?
No.
No.
Well,
I was
gonna say Pastor Ashley.
I know he on his lunch break, so he got.
Yeah,
You just gonna have me working till 8, 9 o'clock at night. It's all right.
we appreciate you, Councilman, and I think I'm more interested in the vision that you have for your ward because I'm in your ward,
Mhm.
and whatever we can do to help. But I am concerned about.
I can go a little bit with that right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm interested in the vision for this ward because again, like I'm in your ward, and I really that other question is still just beating on my heart about people that don't have the insurance.
Right.
But then they may be positive and they're still in the community, and then they're getting ready to open up the city, and like Pastor Assy said, whether it's phase 2, 3, or whatever it is. And we
so you saw the different stages that the governor laid out there in terms of
are we going to
talking about?
Yeah, are we gonna abide by that, or are we gonna just kind of extend it because we don't have the testing and we want to be at least give people, if they do have it, an opportunity to heal or quarantine themselves enough so that it won't affect our community at large and we have our numbers go up, because no one has given us the exact number for Michigan City yet.
Yeah, the mayor said what we have is staying in place. But at some point it is going to expire. And I know that that the council have to meet to extend. And I have not seen anything that has come in where we've called a meeting to do that. But we would have to be the ones to extend. I know that, like I said, I think the governor went up to the 20th with some things.
It's the okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's such a mixed bag with that stage 1, 2, 3, and all that different kind of stuff. So the council is going to have to get together at some point to make a decision of whether or not to extend this executive order. We could change some things in it, whatever. But that is going to fall back into our hands. First ward. Like I said, we have different needs in the ward here. We have different needs. When I meet here in the Eastport neighborhood, we're talking about gunshots in the neighborhoods and things of that sort. When I meet out there in Sheridan Beach, that's not a big issue. They have their own issues. So I really have to focus on my groups giving me information as to what they want. A big issue before the last election that we were talking about over here was lighting in the Eastport neighborhood, lighting, throughout the area here. If you don't know what the Eastport neighborhood encompasses, it runs from Springland on the north, Barker Avenue on the south, Risky Avenue down here on the east, and then west is Vale, Poplar. So it's a pretty big area. Growing up, I never knew that was Eastport. I thought Eastport was just where I lived on Woodland Avenue. That was Eastport.
I know.
And so we were actually starting a project with the Eastport Neighborhood Improvement Group where I gave them all a map of the ward. I said, you just ride around and you see places that are dark, just mark on the map where you would like to see street light. So we can actually approach the city, ask for some assistance in terms of getting lights. I noticed a lot of times I've seen where there's an actual pole there. So it doesn't have to be a NIPSCO pole put down in the ground. The pole is there, it just doesn't have a light. So we could push forward as a group. But then all of a sudden, we didn't have any more meetings, which I'm now trying to do some meetings like this for Zoom in order to talk to my folks in the Eastport neighborhood, because they were pretty excited about it, and people were going out and putting things on the map where they saw just dark in the neighborhood where we look for some lighting. That's a big safety issue. So that's one thing that we were focusing on with the Eastport neighborhood. And then moving forward, you always want to see some type of development. We had the grocery store that came down here in the Eastport, what do you call it here? The shopping center, Eastgate Shopping Center, but that wasn't successful. And I think we need these staples. We're considered an actual food desert in the Eastport neighborhood. To get food, you have to travel, so many miles in order to get food. That was actually part of the reasoning with the neighborhood garden that we have down at Walker Street Playground. I don't know if anybody has seen that garden down there, but there's beds down there that people in the public can pick from. And then there's other people that have their own, where they grow their own vegetables and that. So that, that's something we're trying to do down there as well. But it's all about moving forward in development. I see a lot of people picking up houses now, renting houses, and I'm always concerned about that. Is the person buying these houses, are they in it for the right reason? Are they going to take care of the people that are renters? So we did try to do something to look out for that. I feel that is going to come back, wink, wink. And that I think we need some protections out there, or just information more than protections, because there are laws on the books that help people that are in those rental situations, but people just don't know about it. So it's really about development, but we have that double-edged sword again. Remember, we talked earlier about people saying their property taxes went up. If you get more development, if you show up, you get a lot of restaurants, you get a lot of things happening in your that is going to drive up your property value. And hopefully the federal government steps up to do something to help those people. He said with the fixed incomes and things like that, they really need a cost of living raise in order to be able to handle these things. So there's a lot going on in terms of federal, state and city government. But the ward here, I just want to see some development. If I had the chance to, I don't want to say this without sounding, if I could lead the city, I would be looking for people to be able to come into the neighborhoods and like Habitat, what is it?
Habitat for Humanity.
There it is. And they build homes. We've had a couple over here in the area. I think it's Hobart, if I'm not mistaken, where they built a couple of houses, put some families in there. That would be a big push. I would love to see on the east side and the west side. They've done that before in the west side, where new homes are coming up that people can get into. So I would like to see some of that. But once again, it all ties back to the funding and being able to do those things. So I have big visions, but now we got to find the big money, and hopefully, hopefully we'll be able to do that. So that's the fight that I, put myself into. These are the fights that I want to have in regards to being able to fund things like that. So it's really about moving forward in these wards.
Okay. Well, thank you so much,
Not a
Councilman
Not a
Brian Dabney. We really appreciate you coming and joining us, the Spiritual Task Force, and enlightening us on some things, and also hearing our voice as pastors and our concern for the community and the people in it. So we appreciate you so very, very much for coming in. We're going to have you come back on, and we're going to definitely take up that offer for the fundraising events to try to do a graduation on the beach, if we can pull things together with that. I think that would be great for the youth. They would look forward to something like that.
We got to look at the timing. Will the beach be open and so forth and things like that. So a lot of moving parts right now, a lot of moving parts. But when I get more information, like I said, a couple of things that Pastor Ashley brought up that I hadn't heard, things that were announced from Friday that I hadn't heard yet. Like I was saying, I haven't been on my city email too much today because I've been working. So
Okay.
I'll be looking around. I wrote a couple of notes here about some things I want to email to get some information about. And when I get more information, I would be glad to come out and share it. Glad to come out.
Now, remember about those earmarks. We're interested in finding out about the earmarks for the funding. We're interested in finding out if there will be, like we said, some kind of funding for testing, if we can get something like that for those that don't have insurance. Those are some of the questions I would like to find. I think we all would like to know. So maybe we can push you to push them a little bit.
And also a question about the rental assistance.
Let's go.
Yes, the rental and utilities, yes.
Is there a question that you want to read about rental assistance? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not a question. I was just throwing that out there to keep that on the not the back burner, but on the forefront.
Right. I mean, I just see that as something that we concentrate on when we come out of this whole thing. gonna have to.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we can also have a further discussion about rent. I know that there are the majority of Michigan City are renters. And I was told that the landlords, there is not a cap on how much they can charge for rent.
Oh,
And
come on.
I know that there's a lot of renters, they get into the places and then they can't afford it and then they're moved. So to have a discussion on this cap that the landlords have on rent.
Right,
I
right.
would like to see a discussion on that too.
And then that rental, that's good, Pastor Kimberly, because I actually talked with somebody that they're getting HUD assistance, but then the landlord, if they're late, like if they get a job, this particular person had got a job, start working, so her rent started going up. She couldn't afford to pay the rent and keep the job with the HUD funding that they charged. So then she started getting late fees from the landlord. So the landlord added up all the late fees and the person, then the house is falling apart kind of, but then they cannot move because they have to pay the fees, back fees, and it's up to like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So the landlord keep that person in bondage in that house, can't get another place under Section 8. And if they get a job, then they have to pay more monies a month. That's, I mean, it's just like, it's like something.
Yeah.
It's a cycle.
So this
It's a
just
cycle.
tells you, like you've heard some of my views and what I would like to see happen. But in the end, everybody votes count all the way to the top, all the way down. I would love for all of the politicians that were on top, county, state, to all agree with me. You know, these are some of the things I'd like to concentrate on. So I hope everybody gets out there and vote, make their voices heard.
Okay, everybody, any other questions? No other questions from the panel? All
All right.
right,
No.
this has been really, truly awesome. We
Thank you.
thank you again, City Councilman Brian Dabney. You're doing an excellent job. Thank you for being over our ward, and thanks for all that you contribute to our city.
All right, and thank you for the interesting and tough questions. I'm looking out the corner of my eye at Ashley right now. But I appreciate it. If you don't ask it, it won't get answered. So I appreciate those questions, man. I really do.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
We
All
love
right.
Pastor Ashley. Yeah, that's our pit right there. So don't play.
Keep doing your thing. You guys are doing a good thing here. All right.
Thank
you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right. Y'all have a good day.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. This has been awesome. Our power. I'm going to switch it back to Pastor Kimberly so she can give us a heads up on what we can expect for tonight and just give you some insight. So God bless you. Here, Pastor Kimberly, tell us about tonight.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed this afternoon with Councilman Brian Dabney. Again, we'd like to thank you for coming on. We'd like to thank you all that sent in questions that we were able to ask. I hope that those questions were answered. Tonight, we will be having a round table of all the pastors with questions regarding COVID-19 and the church. Tomorrow, we will have a representative from Work One at noon. Tomorrow night, we will be having a dynamic pastor from New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, Jakara Williams. Wednesday, we will be having afternoon. We'll be having Councilwoman Angie Nelson Deitch. I hope I said your name right, hon. I'm sorry. I always mess it up, but you know who you are. And I think mostly everybody in Michigan City knows who you are. So please just join us tomorrow noon. And tomorrow night, we will be having another wonderful pastor. Wednesday night, we'll be having another wonderful pastor, Pastor Kimberly Williams from New Disciple Love Fellowship. Thursday, we will be having at noon, Councilwoman Tracy Tillman. And what is that? I'm on Thursday. Okay, Thursday night, we will be having another wonderful pastor, Pastor David Ashley, at 7 o'clock. So our nightly services begin at 7, our afternoon services begin at 12. We thank you all that are coming in on 12 o'clock and joining us. Please come on over at 7 o'clock and join us. That is all.
Thank you, Pastor Kim. Thank you so much. God bless you and your work. All right, you all, you heard it. That's what it is. Thank you for joining us, Facebook family. Thank you for joining us, YouTube family. And don't forget, you want to join us on Nightly because we are giving away those stimulus awards. Every night we give away $100 stimulus award to a family, to a blessed family. Amen. So God bless you all. Thank you for joining. And we will see you later tonight. God bless.